In this example, we are going to apply the concept of effective interest rate to decide on different alternatives. Okay, so this case study is about Tesla Motor who wanted to buy a new coordinate measuring machine. So 3 proposals or 3 bids was proposed by their vendors. So they give a different option on how Tesla Motor will pay on the unpaid balances. The first question asks you to determine the effective rate for each bid on the basis of semi-annual periods. Semi-annual period tu maksudnya separuh daripada setahun, which is 6 months. Okay, now let us first solve for bid number 1. Okay, in order to solve this, the first step is always to draw the timeline up to 1 year or 12 months. And then given the interest rate is 9% per year, so 9% goes all the way up to month 12. That 9% is compounded quarterly. So you can represent the compound period using blocks. If it is compounded quarterly, then there will be 4 blocks in your timeline. Okay, so the first step is always to calculate how much interest rate does one block represent. So in order to calculate the interest rate for each period or for each block, the 9% divided with the total block that you have in 1 year, which is 4 blocks. So each block or each compound period represents a value of 2.25%. Okay, now the question asks you the effective rate for semi-annual period. So semi-annual period would happen from month 0 to month 6. Okay, so from month 0 to month 3, the interests are not being compounded yet. Dia single je kat situ, 2.25 je. And then suddenly at month 3 to month 6, dia tambah lagi satu interest baru dekat situ, then that is where the interests are being compounded. That is why you need to use the RM formula. So we can kind of visualize it like this, and the R in this case would be the nominal interest rate for that 2 blocks that we want to calculate, which is 2.25% plus 2.25%. The M in this case would be the number of blocks or the number of compound period. So we just substitute the values in our equation and we will get a value, the effective interest rate of 0.0455, or if we convert it into percentage value, it will be 4.55%. So for 4.55%, for how long? This 4.55% is the effective interest rate for 6 months. Okay? So, in the second bid, they offered 3% interest rate per quarter, compounded quarterly. Again, similarly, just draw the timeline up to 12 months or 1 year. And we know the 3% are being charged for each quarter. So, 1 quarter is for 3 months. Okay? So, 3% is up to month number 3. Mana nak tahu 3 month ke 6 month ke apa? So kalau quarterly, so you have to divide 12 months with 4. So bila divide with 4, each quarter tu dia ada 3 bulan. Okay, so this interest are being compounded quarterly. Again, dalam 1 tahun tu dia divide into 4 equal blocks as shown. Okay, that block is the compound period. Now, we want to find what is the effective rate on the basis of semi-annual periods. So, of course, the first step is to define what is the interest rate for each block or each compound period. So, this one is quite straightforward. We don't have to divide it with anything because you already know 1 block represents 3%. So, 2 blocks is 3% and another 3%. If we want to measure the semi-annual periods, we need to measure the effective interest rate up to month 6. Okay, so we are going to use the same effective interest formula as shown. Our R would be the total interest for that 2 block, which is 6% or 0.06. And mana dapat 6% ni? Is the 3% plus the 3% ataupun 2 kali 3%. And the M would be how many times Bukit Bukau tu berlaku. So you see Bukit Bukau tu berlaku sebanyak 2 kali. So the M is 2. So you substitute the values in your equation and you will get the effective interest rate to be 0.0609, or if we convert it into percentage value, it will be 6.09% for 6 months. Okay, now let us try to solve for bit number 3. In bit number 3, 8.8 interest rate were charged for 1 year, which are compounded monthly. So let's draw the timeline up to 1 year or 12 months. 8.8 for 1 year, and it is being compounded monthly. So our block will be, there will be a total of 12 blocks in 1 year because it's been compounded monthly. So every month there is one compound period. The first step is always to calculate what is the value of the interest rate for one compound period. So 8.8% divided with how many blocks in the timeline? 12 blocks. So each block represents 0.73% interest rate. Okay, now if you want to calculate the effective rate on the basis of semi-annual periods, so we are only interested in the 6 months period. Okay, now we are going to use the RM formula. Our R would be the total interest rate of 6 months, which is 0.73% or 0.0073 multiplied with 6, and the M is how many compound period in the 6 compound period that we are interested in. So our M is 6. So substitute the values in our equation and we will get the effective interest rate to be 0.0446% or 4.46% for 6 months. Now, if we put together the effective interest rate for semi-annual periods for all 3 bits, you will notice that bit number 3 offered the lowest interest rate for 6 months, okay, which is 4.46%. So as decision maker in the company, you would always choose a company or bank institution which offer the lowest interest rate, because the lower the interest rate is, the less money that you have to repay to that organization. Now let us look at the second part of the question. The second part of the question asks you to calculate the effective annual rate. So basically, the step to calculate is the same. We already got this from our previous exercise. We know 9% is being charged up to month 12. And if we want to measure the effective annual rate, then we have to consider for the whole year period. Okay, not semi-annual anymore. It's for the whole 1 year period. So you can use the first effective interest rate formula, whereby the I is the interest rate for each compound period, which is 2.25%, and the M is the number of blocks exists in our timeline. So in this case, the block is 4. So you substitute the value in our equation and you will get interest rate, effective interest of 0.0931 or 9.31% for 1 year. Of course, the value will keep on increasing, depends on the period that you want to calculate for. You repeat the same procedure for bit number 2 and bit number 3, and at the end of the day, you will get the annual rates of bit number 1 to be 9.31%, bit number 2 to be 12.55%, and bit number 3 to be 9.16%. Again, if the decision are being based on the annual rates, then bit number 3 offered the best, lowest interest rate. So we can recommend Tesla Motor to choose bit number 3. Okay, now why don't you try this question on your own? Submit the solution in YouLearn and I'll count it as your attendance for the interest rate session. Okay, till then, see you later in the next series.